So I kept seeing this thing that people are using to spray paint. They were using a normal kitchen sieve and a toothbrush. I thought about using those, and then I realized that I'd have to clean them after, and since I'm using the sieve to make food stuff, I'd have to get another one, and they are at least 10 bucks each. So I thought there's probably a better way of doing this. And since I have access to a 3D printer, this is what I made. And I'll show you how I made this, because I didn't model the mesh that's here. I only modeled the general shape. Let's get to making it. To make our paint sprayer, we'll first make a sketch. And we'll make a circle that's 80 millimeters wide. And then using the slot tool, we'll make a handle. And I'll make it 8 millimeters wide. That's a bit long, so I'll shorten it. If you don't see slot tool here, it's here. Now we'll just extrude all of these up. By 2 millimeters. Then we'll create a new circle on top of the old one and put it 78 millimeters. We can then extrude this up for 2 millimeters. We'll create a new sketch on that. And we can then lower this handle part 2 millimeters. Maybe 1.5 would be better. And then we'll just go ahead and make a little hanging hole. And we'll just punch it through. And then we'll just do some chamfers. There we go. Now the base form for our sprayer is done. You can see that this is all solid, but we'll get to that in the next step. Now that we have our piece, let's do the modifications that it needs to work as a paint sprayer. We'll need to add a modifier, and we'll choose a cylinder. We'll move it roughly in the center, and then we'll give it size 78 millimeters. Now it's the same size as the inner part of the sprayer. Now we'll just need to move it into correct position. That can be 0. And that's probably closer to that. All the way through. Now we have the modifier in the correct position. Now let's select the options that we need to make this into a sieve. First we'll go with the layers and perimeters. We need to remove the top and the bottom layer. And then we'll go ahead and add the infill so that we can control infill. We'll select 15% and we'll select rectilinear as the pattern. And now when we slice it, we end up with this. If you change the fill density to, for example, 20% and slice again, you get a much tighter group. And if you change it to, for example, 10%, you get a less tight group. So you can mess around with the setting and get the type of mesh. Now we'll just go ahead and export the model and then print it. Now that we have our sprayer mesh, we need something to paint on, so I painted some cardboard black. I also made this mask, which is literally a 2-layer print. So we'll just make some 80s aesthetic suns with this. I also made some paint cups that you can either wash or dispose of, depending on what kind of paints you're using. Also remember to thin your paints properly. The thinner it is, the better it sprays, but the less it covers. Note that we're missing a lot of masking, and that's on purpose. I'll show you how wide this thing will spray. You need to properly mask yours in order to not get it in the places that you don't want it to get to. Note that we are currently using a normal paintbrush, but you can also use things like toothbrushes to do this thing. The way that you brush against the mesh and the kind of tool that you're using will affect how the droplets will spray around. So experiment on a test surface first and then do it on the proper art piece that you're doing it. This works really well to create starry skies, for example. Unlike with spray paint, with this technique there is pretty much no forces acting on the art piece, so you can most often get by just masking with pieces of paper laying on top of the art piece. Once you're done, then just leave the thing to dry and then remove the masking. Well, that's all that I have for today. I hope this tool will be helpful for you, and I'll see you next time.